It is from John Kim. He is trying to be a better artist, and he's been watching for a while, and he just needs a critique on this image. Okay, let me do a tiny little disclaimer for everyone who attends and everyone who will see this on YouTube. It's really hard for me to critique images for you guys if they're not finished. I still critique images that aren't finished. I still do it. I still take a look at them. But if I see one random study that you did one random hour in this one random week, some couple of weeks ago, and you want me to critique it with all my critiquing ability, it becomes unfair for people who do want the critique. Who have finished images, it's unfair to me because I am investing a lot of my time in critiquing, and it's just pour all my knowledge all over the images. As much knowledge as I have. I'm not saying it's infinite or anything. It's not fair to you because I'd be critiquing you and diagnosing you on one tiny image you did. So you're gonna be represented by what that one tiny image that you did and you sent in. Again, I'm no offense against anyone who really wants a critique and just is just looking for a second opinion. But as for those who have already looked at, I've already looked at your work so many times, and you know who I'm talking and you know who you are. I've looked at your work so many times. This is one more than one person, and I have given you so much of my time, and I've sort of given you so much advice on what to do and where to go that if I say it one more time, you guys are probably going to blow up. It's not really finished images. It's not masterpieces that I'm looking for. No, it's not. It's an image. I want to see that you are changing what you're doing between each critique that I give you. If I'm going to be giving you the same critique over and over and over again, then I can't continue to critique your work, especially if your work is sparse and scattered and few and far between. I can't continue to do that. People who give me finished images are people who, one, invested a lot of time in their images, two, are actually looking for a real change so that they can actually improve. And in completing an image, what I see is the person really trying very, very hard to throw in as much as they know and then just throw it out there, put their head under the axe and get ready to sort of get the critique and get ready to be just like, bandage pulled off really fast. They're ready for it, to be told that jump out of your tunnel vision, you've got problems with lighting, etc., etc., etc. If you're giving me these studies that really don't represent you even trying anything new, or studies that don't show you've thrown a lot of time into it, especially photo studies, please don't give me photo studies because there's nothing I can do with photo studies unless you're giving me the reference and you're asking me, excuse me, I'm sorry, if you're asking me, did I do this right? Did I copy this color right? Like, unless you're asking me those questions, there's really nothing I can help you with if you have the original study beside you and you can see yourself if there are issues. The reference is right there. So, and this is talking about photo studies, like photorealism. I'm not talking about images that use references. I'm talking about photorealism. So what I mean to say is, you can send me what you need me to look at, but at the end of the day, it'll be my choice if I take a look at it or not. And the reason why I say that, what I look for in the critique hours that I give you, is I look for those people that between the critiques that I give them, and I give more than one critique per person, I'm sure I've given you lots of critiques, one person after another. So if I'm seeing that there is a difference in between the ones that you've given me, that way I know that there are changes being made. But if you're giving them to me because you want to get a showcase on just to have people look at your paintings, or if you want to just get in on the critiques and just leave, don't do that because there are people here who are actually trying very, very hard, who want to get a critique, who will make changes, who will apply these critiques to their images. I give these critiques and I give you the paintovers back. I give you the photocopies or the copies back. Um, I send them back to you as JPEGs, and I expect to see some changes made to your image. I expect to see that you tried again. The reason why I'm so sort of stressed about this is because when I do the 14-day challenge with the private tutoring, what I expect the student to do is to every other day that comes in. So I mean, every day that comes that we approach for the 14-day challenge, the next day always has to be better than the day before it. You cannot um, start making new mistakes or start doing the same mistakes that I spent an hour and a half telling you not to do. After a sort of while, you're no longer a beginner. After a while, after hearing all the fundamentals and hearing all the rules, you can no longer have the excuse of saying I didn't know. So when I give you these critiques, one, I expect them to be applied because it means that you're trying. And if I see that you're trying, I'll give you more critiques free of charge and the critique hours if you guys get in. And that's it, really. I just want to see that you guys are trying. If I don't get a consistent change or a consistency in your finished work, if I don't get a consistent effort throughout the week, then it will be very difficult for me to really dedicate myself to you guys consistently throughout the spring and summer. So these windows of critiquing are open and free and available for you. Please take advantage of them. But don't just see them as something you can take advantage of, something that is granted to you. Because from now on, I won't be able to critique everything that I get. I will spend a whole hour on one image if I have to. Because it will mean that this person at least will get this an effect and it will affect their gallery. These critiques, I really want them to change your careers. I want them to change the way you think about art. I want them to change your skill. I want them to change who you are as an artist, because the main thing about Critique Hour, the golden thing about Critique Hour, is that it is me enlightening you. I'm not some sort of Buddha or anything, but me telling you guys there is an issue, and in knowing that issue, you go and change it, and then suddenly, uh, I'm seeing the change in your images. So I don't even know what I'm saying. Critiques are there to interrupt your flow. Critiques are there to interrupt your tunnel vision. Critiques are what everybody needs in order to improve. You have to make mistakes before you learn. Some people, unfortunately, are incapable of seeing their mistakes. So someone has to come in and tell them, hey, look, there's a mistake here. Try to think about it this way and then fix this mistake, because it's not reading very well. And in art, that's needed a lot because you sit there for hours on a painting. And if you sit there hours on a painting, it is automatic that you will get a tunnel vision. So all I'm trying to say is send me images that, if I've critiqued you before, send me images that represent the critiques that I've given you before. Show me that you have applied these changes that I've given you. Because let me tell you something, guys. There are people out there who pay lots and lots and lots of money, who give me money to do this for them. And I would, if they're paying me money, I will not be easy on them. I give them even harsher critiques because at that point I know they have to get, one, their money's worth, and two, I want to know that there's improvement between day one and day whatever, because they will be representing my teaching. So I'm bringing in the same thing here for you guys. I'm bringing in the same exact attitude and the same exact expectancy and the same strictness and the same sort of dedication, let's call it, and passion. And it's really important to me if you guys respond to that passion and bring me work that you truly feel needs a look at it, not some study you did 2 weeks ago. Send me all your studies. Send me all your studies in one big RAR file, and I'll go through them with you in the critique hour. I won't be able to paint over every single one, of course not, but I'll be able to see that you guys are really trying. I want to see that you're trying, because if you try, I will try, and I will keep these critique hours open and consistent throughout the week for you guys. Last Tuesday, I hit almost 2 hours of critiques, and I tried to cover everybody's work because I owed it to you for being on a hiatus for so long. That all said, this Tuesday upcoming, Psychra will be joining me in a critique session. So I don't know if you guys heard about it on Facebook yet or anything. But he will be joining me. I'm not sure exactly how we're going to be doing it, what the format is going to be, but he's going to be there. Hopefully you guys can ask him some questions. Hopefully his insight will also bring in another perspective instead of my lame old perspective on your critiques. He was going to bring in his own expertise and experience, and sort of give you an opinion or two. And for that day, I'm not going to choose uh, random studies that you have in the week. If you guys have studies that you've been doing consistently for the last 3 months or something, send it to me as a RAR file, and I'll open it up and have Psychra and myself look at it. Um, or if you have one image you worked really hard on and you want to improve on, and you want to expand your sort of horizons a little bit for that one day, I will take a look at it and I will choose it to be part of the queue for Psycher to look at. Psycher is very nice. He's a very kind person. He was there last Tuesday. He's very welcoming, and he gave me a shout out in his videos, and I really don't know how it happened, how he found me. But he's very nice and very open and very giving, and I hope you guys make him feel welcome. Of course I'm going to make him feel welcome. So I'll continue to announce this. I'm going to post a YouTube video on it as well. And then finally, last night I stayed up till 5 o'clock for you, making a video on how to paint skin. It's my newest video. Abu, can you link it, please? Um, what it's about is basically the sort of crowning achievement of my channel, I guess you can call it, even though it's one of my first videos. It's how to paint skin. It's the one that is the most popular because skin, I guess, is a very difficult thing to tackle for students just starting out. So I made another one, and this one is a linked, sort of remastered version. Um, uh, so take a look at it. It'll help you guys, I hope. It's about skin and how to think about different complexions and how to think about different races of skin, or not race, or sort of ethnicities of skin or backgrounds of skin, and how to think about skin biologically, scientifically, before you apply the colors to the canvas. So yeah, take a look at it, and I hope I see some studies on skin soon, because you guys, I have to start being strict with you. I need to see that you guys are trying so that I can continue, and can keep giving you all of this stuff. So I'm gonna jump into John Kim's critique here. And actually, one more thing. I want to do a little spotlight. Recently, one of my students graduated out of the 14-day challenge, and this is their 14-day challenge progress. Everybody ready? Okay, so this is day 1. Damn it. This is, come on. This is day 1. All right, and this is day 14. And she made a huge jump in her understanding of form and structure. She did switch around between races and skin colors, but I've never seen a student jump through color and accessory and adding hair in the 14-day challenge, and she really wanted to do that. So now, before she said that she was having difficulty even coloring skin, but now we're seeing a sort of progress into not only painting with color but painting a face. So now I can let her go into the abyss of the world, and she can, and I know with a confidence that she can keep applying these rules. So this was her progress throughout. So you can start seeing that she started including a skeletal structure in the face. She really started to create a face that read, and she sort of developed. I showed her how to include the hair, and this was the grayscale before she went into the color jump, and she continued on keeping the values the same. And then she jumped into color, courageously jumped into color, without fear, and I really appreciate that. I gave her a couple of lessons. This was the image that really struck me, because between day 1 and day this, which is day 1 is here, we see a massive jump. We see a huge jump. If you guys can just take a moment to take a look at it. The way she drew the nose, the way she drew the eyes and the lips were very symbolic. It was sort of her memory of what sort of nose or mouth looks like. But after the challenge, she became really aware of the anatomy, and most importantly, the function of painting a face, and how important it is to remember the science behind it all. And then she just she continued, and she tried different hair colors, and then she tried different kinds of, so this one was particularly beautiful. She tried different hair colors and how hair colors have to match with skin tones, so different races. And then I sort of challenged her to try the lighter hair color, and she took on the challenge courageously. And every one of these is a success because it shows me that she is not afraid to jump in and try it. And that's sort of the thing that stops us all. Between here and here is a massive step. You think two different artists painted this, and that is what makes my day. And this is something that you guys can get from the free. I know it's a lot slower, and I won't be there with you consistently every single day for 2 weeks, which is what we did with her. Um, but this is also a very similar way to build grounds for your practice, to change your work ethic, and to start thinking better about your painting process, and to be a bit more serious and tighten up your belts a little bit. And and that's it really. This example, a small little metaphor of the 14-day challenge, how much you can really improve in such a short amount of time. She did spend up to 5 hours on each one. She just sat there and worked and worked and worked, and the payback was worth it, definitely worth it. I'm amazed by her, and I'm really proud of her. And I'll link her gallery in a moment. Her gallery name is Wester, CHID.deviantart.com. So have a look at that, show her some support, and congratulate her on her graduation, I guess you can call it. All of you can really improve the way she improved. I truly believe everyone here can develop that kind of observational skill, and that's what you learn in the 14-day challenge. You learn how to observe. You learn how to, no, she's not here right now. You learn how to think better about and read better from references. And she didn't use a reference, so imagine the kind of feed, or the kind of image we would have gotten from her if she had used a reference. So that's what the 14-day challenge does, is that it forces you to think without references, so that when you do look at references, you will see the fundamentals that you learned on the 14-day challenge on the reference, and then that will sort of reinforce your belief and trust in the fundamentals of physics that apply in anything that has to do with reproducing something that is three-dimensional on a two-dimensional surface, which is what art is. Drawing is technically, if you want to define it dictionary-wise, is reproducing something that is three-dimensional in the real world onto a two-dimensional surface of the paper. Okay, so enough babbling. I'm going to jump into this now. I'm just going to get my soft brush. I know, I'm sorry, you guys are sick of the look of it, but I'm going to take some things into consideration here. Yes, it is one of your studies, but I'm going to be harsh about it because I really want you to improve. I really see this finished piece in front of me. A lot of detail and a lot of thought went into it, and it looks like it's something that was very close to your heart. I'm going to give you some pointers here, and I want to see them applied to this, John. I don't want you to just brush over them. These can actually improve your image and boost its sort of its sorry, there's a hair, cat hair. It can boost its sort of feedback. Not feedback, what is the word? It can boost its something. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to point to the areas first with the red marker and show you sort of what they're doing to the image. This is interrupting the light source. You're pushing the eyes to leave away from the focal point. This is where you want the focal point to stay. You've got this brightness, and it's a line. It's a practical arrow saying, hey, don't look at this image. Look at this edge. It's just so much more interesting. It's not. It's lying to you. It's deceiving you. It is not interesting. This is what's interesting. So always make sure everything is pointing to this character. So get rid of this. Another thing is, I hope I have my resources folder open. Yes, I do. Let me show you what placing a line beside the cheek does. This is a line that signifies, I found this weird little magazine cutout a while ago, and it's sort of representing a half-aged face. And I want to show you sort of, it's about smoking and stuff like that, but forget about that for now. The point of this is I want to show you what happens when we age and how to represent someone who is aging in a painting. This line here is basically where it's at. Yeah, you've got wrinkly eyes. Yeah, you've got details. Yeah, you've got receding hair and sparser hair, and the lips go lower a little bit and they're less perky. But the most important thing in this case is the drooping of the cheek fat on top of this snout area of the nose-mouth system. So this becomes a wrinkle, this laugh line. And if you have that in a painting, it will read really uncannily as an old person. I know it's not, an old person isn't what you drew, but that's how it's going to read, period. Alright, another thing is the large Michelangelo chin you've got here. That sort of just hits too close to his habits. What I want to do is, his habits, like sort of what reminds me of Michelangelo the most are the chins. They're massive. Um, but what I want to do here is lower the cheek. It's not that the chin is small and you need to shrink the chin. The chin just looks big compared to where you have the lips. The lips are too high, making the chin seem small. So what we need to do is fix that up. Um, and that'll sort of bring the chin back to the area it's supposed to occupy on the face. All right. So I brought that chin down a little bit. Let me zoom out to see if I brought it down enough. Yeah. The next thing, the nose is done pretty well. The lips are done very, very well. Like I can't really critique the lips or the nose that much. The nose might have a bit of an extended nostril here, but I'll talk about it in a sec. Um, So this was the only issue pretty much with the face, is that you had a signifier for aging used in there, and you must have placed it in there accidentally, or you thought it needed to be there because of one study you did some time ago, um, and sort of it didn't really need it. Another thing that was an issue is the background color. You either make the background light and the foreground dark, or the foreground light and the background dark. Don't mix them up, please. The reason why you shouldn't mix them up is because this is a standing character in an environment. I talk about this a lot in my figure drawing book. What I say is, and I say this, imagine, everyone is with me right now, right? Imagine that before you started painting, in the canvas there was already gravity. There was already an earth. There was already a surface. There was already lights. There was already physics. And all you're doing is you're drawing, but you're following the rules of that canvas. So you're following the realistic rules that are in life. Imagine that your canvas is a part of the real world. So what you're doing at this point is you're just following the rules, but you're still creating, you're still being creative, but you're following the rules of the canvas, the physics rules, the fundamental rules, the rules that make an audience, the viewer of your painting, believe that this character is real. So, what I'm telling you here is this looks really off to me because what we're seeing is this like snake, like, I mean, if you wanted a snake, this is a snake right here. Beautiful, beautiful muscles and pores happening. But I don't think it's a snake. I think you were just going for that wispy, wind-blown kaze something something Japanese anime type of thing. And it's a nice pattern. It's a graphic. It's something that will sort of boost the composition just a little bit, but it shouldn't be something that you depend on for the character to be pushed through into the foreground. So I pointed to this. I'm getting rid of this. We don't need this, John. I'm also going to darken the background. What I want to do is lighten the background and darken her up, and then have the light shine on her, so that, I think I'm just going to do that. Because that way what happens is she'll sort of take the position underneath the light source coming from above. So what that will do is it will give us an opportunity to shade her as if she was a cube. Um, so let me see if let me mess around with both versions. See if I wanna which one I wanna go with. Well, this one's easier to do. Okay, I'll do this one. I'll do this one. I'll do the dark background. If you can choose to do the light background, it's really your choice. But what we'll have to do is we don't just darken the background and then say that's it and it's easy, it's done. We have to make her match the background. So she's in a dark room at this point. She's in a room that is darker than she is. Um, and what I want to do is make her match this room. So what I'm going to do is think about where the light source is. So remember, imagine that there were physics already in the canvas before you started painting. So it means that this line that you were doing before, I think what you were trying to do is that spotlight that happens on a character, sort of, that comes up from above just like that. You could have done that with way less effort and a lot less stated. You could have just thrown one big, just sort of stroke down here and just responded to it as if this was a three-dimensional form. So I cast the light, and this is the physics. This is what physics says to us. When light is cast, there are shadows that appear. Shadows become the result of that. So what we have to do as the painters, we have to respond to the shadow, to the light, by casting shadows on the objects. That's what it's all about. Casting shadows properly to represent the form proportionately. If you ever want to quote me on something, quote me on that. Um, so what I'm going to do now is sort of mess around with the proportions a little bit, because those were another thing that popped out at me when I saw this. The sort of, what happened here? Why is it blurring me? Sort of proportions are a bit off. Her shoulders are a bit large. Her neck is a bit thick. And I just want to sort of make sure everything is matched, and she is feminine, but she's still athletic. And in order to make an athletic woman, you don't have to give her masculine features in order for her to look athletic. You just have to define the muscles a little bit. You can maintain her petiteness, you can maintain her feminine quality, you can maintain, her gender. You don't have to worry too much about sizing or anything like that. You don't have to make her have these massive shoulders or a massive neck in order for her to look athletic. So good job on the shoulder, really nicely shaded. The hands need work, so that's a sign, sort of a hint to you to start doing some hand studies. I know hand studies are hard to get around, and I know it's just like the biggest, most annoying thing, but just, just to bite the bullet and just jump in there, do a couple, and just say, hey, I did a couple. They don't have to be perfect. They're not masterpieces. So just go in for that and try it. I know it's daunting, but you can do it. If you mastered the face, trust me, you can master the hands. I'm pushing her nose up just a touch. It was a bit elongated. I'm going to have to touch that up just a touch more. And so before for her features, after. Before, after. The neck was a little slender. It wasn't matching the other shoulder, so I just pushed that down a little bit. The shadow of the chin wasn't sitting on top of the neck. It was pushed off to the side. The neck, the whole face is in front of the neck, and the light is being cast from above. So what's going to happen is that the neck shadow will take the shape of the chin, and that's sort of what's going to happen. Also, this line here that you have in between the head and the body, this comes from your years in line art. Beware of the line in your paintings. No such thing as line in real life. It's all edges. There are no lines in the real world. So unless you draw one. What I'm doing now is, instead of using the line, I'm going to create an edge between light and dark. And that'll work just like the line to point to me where this face ends and where the neck begins. I'm sorry I'm not looking at the chat right now, forgive me. Also, I'm going to think about where the light source is. So I'm casting off some of her in the shadow in the distance, because if you were to think about it as a piece of tape sitting on top of everything, this piece of tape recedes into the back. It starts to wrap around her back on the side. So if the lines, John, are telling me that there is a receding happening back here, it means that there is shadow possibly sitting over here. It means there's another side of the face. So what I'm seeing now, my eyes are seeing a cube. If this was the cube version of the arm, this would be the receding. So if this is receding, it's not getting any of the light coming from the side. It's getting no light almost, because the lines are facing away. And so this side here would be dark, and this side here would be darker. And then if there was secondary light source, you'd know the secondary light source is restricted to the cube. And only this side of the cube can get this light source, because there is an edge, and this edge says, no light, you cannot travel past my edge, because this is your only surface area that is facing you. Sorry, Mr. Light, go bug somebody else. So that's what's happening here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to respond to that edge by casting some shadows off. And then I'm going to respond to the primary light source. So the primary light source is demanding attention. Primary light source is coming from above. There's one coming in front of her like this, which is casting this shadow. But I don't know if I want to treat that one as the primary light source. I'm going to start casting shadows as if the light is coming from above her head. So what that means is that we will have shadows on her eye socket line. We're going to have light on the top of her shoulder. So think of it as a cube. Where is the top of her shoulder? And that's what's getting the light. We're going to cast a longer shadow from her neck down. I'm going to fuzz it up a little bit because the more distant the object is away from the light source, the fuzzier its shadow is going to be. I'm going to cast some shadow on her hair that isn't facing the light. I'm going to lighten this up just a touch. I'm also going to give her hair, sort of hairline some definition, sort of like a parting line of her hair. Just up here. And sorry if I'm not looking at the chat if you're saying something. I sort of just get lost in the critique sometimes. And I'm just casting some hair light along the top. Right over here. Alright, another thing that happens when light hits hair, it sort of has this flyaway thing that happens right at the top. Hair gets those tiny hairs that fly away. And sort of catch the light a little bit. I'm just going to sharpen them up just a touch. And I'm going to continue casting these shadows, but I'm sort of easing up on the intensity. I don't want it to be too intense, too soon. I want to sort of, use my is it called using it sparingly when you don't use too much, like economically, when you don't use it too much? I'm going to use my lights sparingly. So as I've said before, the cheeks are the darks, the most sticky outy second to the nose of the face. And so what they're going to do is catch the light as well as the noses. And then this light, secondary light source on the cheek is cast by the shoulder, and the bottom of the chin is cast by the light source above here. So hair doesn't just reflect back, it reflects back in sort of a line of highlights. It reflects back in this sort of highlighty way where it works like a mirror or like an armor metallic thing, and it casts light just like that. Her features are really stylized. I'm not sure if you want to do that. You're working with really like overly stated features. Yeah, the triangle cuteness thing is nice, but when you want to work with such level of realism, I recommend bringing in some realistic scales. She's still going to have big eyes, but they're going to be a lot less stated than before. And a little bit more sort of tasteful. The eyes are also going to darken up in this area here and get a little bit darker. And I'm just going to bring in some dark spots so that we can sort of anchor the darker darks in the image. I'm going to throw a dark spot on her lips over here because her lips are the cutest. Okay, we need some sort of fuzziness happening with the brows, and there's going to be the brow bone that is catching some light. Basic portraiture stuff I've taught over and over and over again. The upper eyelid and the bottom eyelid. Okay, and we're just casting a shadow of the upper eyelid on the bottom here. And the eyes are sort of taking a more realistic sort of version of what you had before. So let's just compare it to where it was before at this stage. We're thinking about realism at this point. We're thinking about the realistic versions of things. So do you see what that line here on the side and the size of the chin did to the face and the size of the eyes? She became a caricature. Her cheeks also looked too big because you weren't casting the light according to where the light source was. And so after we sort of cast shadows according to where the light source was and made sure the features were all sort of aligned and symmetrical, and they weren't representing something that wasn't really there. The nostrils are still bugging me just a little. Don't outline the nostrils, please. Just let the shadow of the chin, the shadow of the nose take the nose home. Don't worry about outlining the nostrils. Basically what I'm saying is, don't draw this kind of nose. Okay? Please don't draw this kind of nose. Don't outline the nostrils. Please! Okay, I'm sorry. Just cast the shadow of the bottom. You know Bob and Steve? Cast Steve's shadow, I think. The bottom triangle. Cast it and then worry about the tip of the nose a little bit and then place in um, the nostril here. Up here, the way to define this is by edges. You're still using lines here. Don't use lines. This part of the cheek will be light, and this receding part of the nose will be dark, and then this will be light. This is all edge work. I know I'm not really showing a good example here, but I have it in the video. Please take a look at it if you guys are having trouble with outline nostrils. Don't outline your nostrils. If you're trying to paint realistically, just don't do it. You just need some edges. So basically I got rid of the line and then I just placed some light for the top of the nostril that was facing um, the light source. I'm going to throw in some lashes here, some darkness on the eyebrows, some details on the hair. Alright, and then I'm going to push in the ears just a little and shrink them because they're kind of taking up the space. And they're taking the attention. So I'm just going to tuck them in where they belong. I'm going to tuck the side of the cheek in, and then I'm going to tuck in that chin. Just a little now that the face is gaining some form. Don't forget about the jaw. Make sure the cheekbones are the same on either side if you're doing three-quarter view. This happens a lot with three-quarter view. You guys forget to make both cheeks match each other. Don't forget about that. Okay, so I'm going to throw one shadow just down here under the hair. Actually, I can't throw that shadow until I've zoomed out. So I'm just going to throw these shadows here. Just parts of the hair that aren't facing the light. And now I'm going to throw in that halo that comes out of the hair as the light shines on it. And so what we get is this face that's now responding to a light source coming from above. And see what that did? It's nice. It adds that touch, that realistic touch that lets me believe this character is real and is suffering and has the real, you know, the story behind her. So now I want to start thinking about the rest of her body. So these are the areas of her body that are facing the light source. The top of this, the top of her hand, the top of her arm, and you've got some of that already. A little bit of the thighs right over here, just the top of the thigh actually here. And some of this thigh is jumping out of the image trying to get the light source. So all of these areas here are facing the light source. Everything else is darker because everything else is now blending with the darkness of the room in the background. And so we now have a light that has governed the entire image. And we no longer have to worry too much about sort of where everything sits, and the light is demanding sort of the sort of governing the form and how we see the form. So we don't have to worry too much about how to shade anymore and where all the shadows sit on the face, because now that we know where the light source is and it's coming from above, we know that only the objects that are facing the light source have that, or the faces of the objects. I know all of this is super vague and super what the heck are you talking about, but I think if you just go in there and apply and just think about where the light source is and keep responding to it with the way you shade, I think you'll just pick it up naturally, and you'll have a sort of a, oh, that looks wrong, or that looks right, or no, that looks kind of off, sort of instinct about how you paint the face, or how you paint anything actually. So I'm just going to throw some more shadows here, sort of organizing it, thinking about what's casting the longest shadows. And now we have an object that's sitting under the light source. And now if you want to bring those units of composition back, those swirlies in the background, that halo of light going to the top, now you have sort of a realistic version of all of that. And that's sort of how you're supposed to have done it. You're supposed to think about where all of this sits before you, where the shadow is, what color the object is. I mean, you did paint in grayscale, but when you do move into color, you're going to have to start thinking about how these colors are changed when it comes to the light and how the light touches them, and the kind of cast shadows that you're going to have. So all of that is what planning an image does for you. And this is sort of where I want to see this image go. I want to see you applying, because as soon as you start shading, that's how I know you no longer have an excuse not to learn about form, because this is you telling me you're ready to learn about form. And that's important, and that's sort of what it's all about, is being able to paint in a way that this character looks like they're sitting in an actual environment. So I'm just trying to do this in a way where the character is sort of coming out of the background. I'm just looking at my navigator to see if it's working. Always test it before you jump in. Also, another thing I talk about in that latest book of mine is the difference between genders and the pose. What the pose, like gestures, and the genders of gestures. Just genders in general and their gestures. But what I usually talk about is the weight of a female character is distributed to the bottom half of her body. So her thighs are usually bigger, her hips are wider, and men is the opposite of that. Men have thinner hips, or less wide hips and a large upper body. So you always want to make sure you're not doing that opposite of that for the female. You want to shrink her upper body just a little bit so that it's representing her gender, because this at the end of the day is a cartoon. It's a painting. It's not the real photograph. So unless you're painting photorealistically, you're still doing the caricature. You're still doing that sort of representation or exaggeration of what a female would look like. So it's okay to exaggerate them because it's drawing, and that's fine. Just look at League of Legends splash art and you'll see what I mean. It's something they like to do a lot. Also, the hand is extended down a little bit. You might want to take a look at some of the stuff, some of the stuff, some of the references available to you. So I've decided I do want to make the background darker now that I look at that. Maybe half the background can be dark and half of it can be light. It's really your choice. But if she's darker, it means the room is getting the light source on it, and she is part of that room. But she is still dark because the light is cast right on top of her. So all these shadows are cast. So the breasts here, it's really a kind of confusing little thing you did with the pull of the, and I can't really sit here for hours, the pull of the shirt. But bear with me while I try to make it a little bit more rendered. What are you guys talking about? Yeah, keyboard buttons are the best, because if you ever do have to like use a different computer or a different tablet, you should just learn the keyboard, because the keyboard is going to stay the same, and the tablet, you're not always going to have the same tablet in the future, especially if you work for a studio. So try to think about getting used to using the keyboard instead. Just they're a lot easier. The tablet buttons are so tough. You have to like have muscles to push those down. At least for me. So I'm just thinking about her rib cage and how it sticks out and catches some light. And now you have sort of an image that's controlled a little bit light-wise. And everything is sort of coming out of the same light source and respecting the same light source. And I think that starts to work for you as the illustrator. It starts to read, and then you begin to appreciate it. And that's the difference really between you right now and your future self, your future, what's his name? Alex Chan, the guy who does all the League of Legends stuff. So really just think about what realism can do for your illustration. Think about how to start implementing some realism in your art. I need to close off the top of the canvas, but I will give it just a little bit more, just so that the spotlight looks legit and looks like it's pointing at her. And this isn't a finish. This is nowhere near finished because we really have to start reorganizing where the shadows are. What I do if I reach this stage is I darken everything one more time and I relighten. I always talk about this in all my critiques. I just darken everything one more time. Get a dark tone. What that will do for me is force me to start applying the light source only where I really need it. Actually, let me use the lasso. So really only the areas that are getting the light source on them. So the tip of the nose would get some light source. Tip of the cheeks, some lip, a little bit of the nose, top here, top of the arm, top of the shoulder. I'm sorry I'm painting away that tattoo. And I'm just going to apply the light there, one soft light there. And that's making her look even more like she's a part of a greater light source. Oopsie, I wasn't supposed to sharpen. I'm just blurring that so I could save some time. And then I would darken even one more time and continue to shade it using this light source. And so when I jump into the legs, when I paint this kind of illustration, try to paint with a harder brush because you need those edges to preserve the realism for you. So you need this edge right here because you no longer have lines. You need a nice clean edge that isn't always tapered. So using overly textured material, a brush will represent a material that's fuzzy. And try not to use texture where you don't need it. Try to only use it where you need it. And that'll sort of help you stay consistent throughout the painting and not have a fuzzy pant and like a really clean finish everything else. So just keep responding to the light source. Where's the light source sitting? And how is it changing? How is it revealing this cube to me? Everything is a cube. Everything has the cube in it. So just remember that. Alright, I'm just going to blend this a little. And in a second I'm going to show you sort of how to bring in the secondary light source. And what the secondary light source does for the image. Basically when you have a really strong primary light source, you're going to need a secondary light source to sort of bring that down. Let me shrink the arm because now that we've made everything a little bit more realistic, the arm is really getting in the way. So I'm just going to shrink it and place it sort of where it needs to go. It does overlap the really think about doing some hand studies. It sort of overlaps the body. I'm going to jump into liquefy and just increase the size of this hand. Don't be afraid, get a reference going. Guys, I'm scared of hands. I don't draw hands unless I have a reference. It's just how it is. Hands are hard. They're fucking bitches. They give you the worst time. They slow down your process. They're just little fuckers. I'm sorry, I'm swearing. I hate hands. But it doesn't mean you can stop drawing forever or hide hands and feet behind grass for the rest of your life, like I do. So just think about getting a reference, finding a reference, pose for it. Ask your sister, ask your mom to pose for you for a second just to get the hands right. Yeah, this hand, I did make it the right size, but it's still sort of the wrong kind of gesture. And consider that. And I'm still sort of shading away, trying to figure out where the light sources hit. And wherever the light source does hit, we get that nice fog that happens along the side of the object that gets the light source on it. A little less on the face. Okay, maybe you want to lighten up her eyes just a touch. Her eyes are very, very emotional. You had a very emotional gaze happening, which was very nice. You had like a girl that was sort of suffering and stuff, which is a nice touch. You have a passion behind your characters, and that will read very, very well when you start applying realism to to everything. I'm just gonna sort of beautify her eyes just a touch because she is still the main character. So I need to make sure that everything leads back to her. I'm just gonna give her a beauty mark. I don't know, I feel like she needs one. You know, she's like that tough pilot that's sick of her stupid uniform and just wants to move past it all. Maybe start a family. I just gave her a beauty mark right there. Okay? Everybody with me? Alright, so I'm just going to do some more edge work along the sides here. And so where do I put the secondary light source? I'm going to think about a light source of coming out of here, making everything reveal itself. So where I place, yeah, lip piercing would look nice on her. Where I would place the secondary light source is somewhere along here. Just along this side. Just to show that her uniform is sort of reflective a little bit, and just along on this side over here. So we have like the whole system happening between the main light source and the diffused light that's happening from the side. So yeah, this took forever because painting takes forever, and if you're not ready to invest some time, then just stop drawing. And I know all of you do want to invest your time, and you do already sit there for hours. Remember, please remember, every minute you spend is worth it. Every second you spend hasn't been wasted. Don't say, oh, this today sucked because my studies sucked and my drawing sucked, so I suck. No, never say that ever, because every moment you spend is one mistake more that you've made, which is one more thing you've learned. And that's why critiques are so important. They're so important. You need to make sure someone's always interrupting you and someone's always telling you, hey, look, there's a problem here. And you're like, yeah, there's a motherfucking problem. I'm going to fix that motherfucking problem and become a really great artist one day. Don't be someone who hides away or shies away from critiques. Ever, ever, never, never. Because you will never improve that way. I do want to lighten up any areas behind her just a little bit so that she can come out. And have that light sort of travel behind her. So this is a big step from where it was before. There's a lot left to do. There's a lot left I would do. So that's really up to you where you want to take it after this. If this looks finished to you, then that's your personal touch. That's your style. To me, this isn't finished by a long shot, and I would spend more time on her uniform, plan her uniform, get references going, and most importantly, if you're going to have a standing character, know that you're going to need to get a gesture going, and you can't start a masterpiece if you're not planning it. Planning basically means get a couple of papers and practice the gesture you're going to draw before you start drawing it. So that's basically it. It's practice what you're going to be painting. Practice what you're going to be spending time on. Yeah, I did spend 50 minutes on this. It doesn't matter to me how many people I cover. If I cover one person per one day, it's all the same. Someone got critiqued. Someone got a critique. So today I just felt like looking at his image because I feel like there was a lot to cover. There is still a lot left to do with this painting. It's not done, but I hope I've sort of pushed you in the right direction. You're sort of deviating off between lines and light. You are mixing and sort of confusing the light sources a little bit. I hope I've pushed you back to a point where you can appreciate where your light sources are. You can sort of appreciate the light source in a painting. I hope that's done that for you, Johnny. So yeah, here is the before. You had a real confusion happening with the light sources. Things were light where there shouldn't be light. You had that big line behind her saying, hey, don't look at this painting. Look at me. I'm amazing. And that's not true because she's amazing. She is the character. She is the study. She is the point of this whole painting. So if she's the important thing, Johnny, get some references. Get some material. Plan the kind of costume she's going to wear. Practice the gesture. Practice it all before you jump in and make this beautiful character come to life. Alright? So before, after. Yes, it's darker. Yes, she's a little bit different looking, but that's sort of my touch in there. I want your touch in there after you've started painting. I sort of want you to bring in some references. so that you can guide yourself around what it means to play around with this kind of light source. Get some spotlight references, some photography, editorial, fashion photography might guide you towards painting a more readable image. So yeah, good luck with that. For those who, on a side note, this critique is over. For those who are interested in getting more of this information in written form, there are some books that I have written available to you. I have dropped their prices. It's not necessary. It is not. It is a plug. I admit it, and all is shame. It's a plug. But I did write them for a reason, and it's because I can talk on in videos, but sometimes when you have a piece of writing beside you that says the same stuff, it's easier to take it more seriously. So so that's sort of what I mean. I've written them here, all that stuff that I talk about form and lighting and shapes and all of that. So yeah, take a look at the books here. I do have a bundle where you can buy the both books that I've written for starting out illustrators. Um, so have a look at these. Here is the link. So let's see what you guys are saying. Oreo might help to put it on some rice. What? Istebrak, you will someday do a 28-day challenge. Lars, that's heresy. I don't know. There's a 365-day challenge. There's a forever for the rest of your life challenge. The 14-day challenge is sort of an example of how awesome it is to work every day because you improve so fast. Imagine how much you'll improve in a year. I mean, it's just phenomenal. You can be a whole different artist in a year. Doesn't that excite you? I don't know. It excites me. So yeah, on the next level. So if you guys are interested in supporting the class, and it's sort of a donation open, but it's not a donation, it's something that you get back. You get back the class in written form. No, there's never a limit. If you submit something, I will take a look at it. However, I did do that disclaimer today where I talked about please try to give me images that represent you trying very, very hard. It's not so mean to say that because it can be very vague. What I mean is I want to see a consistency and I want to see you applying these critiques to your work. It does not have to look like my version. I just want to see that you're trying with light sources. I want to see that you're trying to think realistically. I mean, you're not going to get hired if you're going to depend on lines for the rest of your life. You're going to have a look, and people might like that look. But if you really want to be an illustrator, like a concept artist, people go to you to draw real stuff for them for movies and games. You're going to have to learn some laws of realism and perspective and form. And that's all I'm saying here today. If I said anything, it's that stuff. Physics. It's not about me, it's about the real world. Imagine the real world is already in there in your canvas and you're just creating a character that's slowly being revealed by these laws. So thank you again, Istebrak. I get what I did wrong and I should use some reference more. I should get rid of the lines and use more edge work. Thank you so much. I'll redraw her after some practice. I would love to see what you do after this critique. Like, I'm waiting at my computer to see what you do with it. Send it to me on Facebook. I'll be more than happy to look at it. Yeah, try redrawing her. There's nothing wrong with retrying it. I don't know what the big taboo is with retrying a painting or touching up a painting. Go back and fix your mistakes after you learn them. Don't let that painting represent you if you've already moved past it. Go back and fix everything in your gallery if you have to. It's of course it's important to you. It's representing you as the artist. If you've moved past this level, then go back and fix. As long as you know you've made these mistakes, and if you want to show your audience that where you've been and where you are now, save copies of the older versions so that people can see how much you've improved. So yeah, thanks everyone for coming. I really appreciate you all. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube. I've been active there lately, so I'd like to see some of you there. Thank you, Evu. Thank you, Art. Thank you, Shovek, Shani. Thank you, Fiobali, Fergus. Hi, Fergus. Thank you, Hello, Iridian. Thank you, Johnny. Thank you, Kuro, Mini Pantsu. Thank you, Natello. Noob, Oreo, Storyteller, The Black Lotus, Tony, Trigger, Vesta, and thank you everyone for coming. I will see you guys on Tuesday. Psycher will be there. Don't forget, Psycher will be there. It's an opportunity to get his critique in this sort of format as well. He'll call me on Skype, and he will be there. to give you guys some of his expertise and experience. All right, so have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.